The Dallas Cowboys had everything going great until it wasn't. Yesterday, Trevon Diggs suffered a left knee injury. Subsequent MRI was performed that confirmed a torn ACL. Timetable for his return to play has not been established. He is currently projected to miss the remainder of the current season. That was a statement the Cowboys issued the same day. They weren't even coy about it. They didn't even give it a day. That same day, Trevon Diggs out for the year, torn ACL, suffered in practice. And we talked earlier about if you're a 49ers fan and everything's going well, you're kind of holding your breath for when the hammer's going to fall. Cowboys, everything's starting great. Look like the best team in football. I moved them to number one in the power rankings. Got a lot of people pissed off because they jumped teams that won in week 2, and you're not supposed to jump teams that win. 49ers won. Cowboys jumped them. Cowboys looked like the best team. And now you take Trevon Diggs out of the mix. It doesn't kill them the way that it would if they'd lost Micah Parsons, but it's still just that war of attrition. It's going to happen. Some team every year gets lucky and doesn't have it happen, but it's going to happen at some point. And the better you are, I think the more nervous the fans get. That's the thing. That's the thing. When you feel like you've got the great team, injuries are the thing that can screw it all up, Peter.
Well, you're right, Mike, and I think it's a good thing for the Dallas Cowboys that they're backstopped pretty well at corner. But again, when you talk about being backstopped pretty well at corner on September 22, that assumes that for the rest of the year you're going to stay healthy or relatively healthy. So that's a bad way to look at it, especially for something like that to happen in practice. And it just goes to show you that this is a sport that, just early this season, look at the devastating injuries that have happened in this sport. 3, what I would call borderline megastars, Diggs, Chubb, Rodgers. I mean, those are 3 of the top 50 players in the NFL, all gone basically in the first 2.5 weeks of the season. And I just kept thinking yesterday when I saw this that, man, this is such a battle of attrition, this entire game, this entire sport. And it's the big reason why, at least in my opinion, that, it's like in baseball. If you don't have a bullpen, it will show up at some point and it will it'll end your season. And if you do not have in football a quality roster from 35 to 53, it's going to show up. It'll show up almost every week. And so that to me is why if you're a general manager and you do a good job and you have a special teams guy who wins a game for you, you have a backup nickel who has a big interception and wins a game for you. It's like with the Ravens the other day. What was the biggest play in the game against the Cincinnati Bengals? The biggest play was the interception at the goal line where the Cincinnati Bengals were going in the third quarter, and they were going to score, and I think it was going to put them ahead. They were going to score, and a guy named Geno Stone picks the ball off at the 2-yard line, runs it back 30-something yards, and the Ravens go down to score, and that basically was in my opinion anyway, the biggest play of the game. Geno Stone. Not Odell, not Lamar, not Burrow, Geno Stone. And so, to me, I think you have to build a roster knowing that at some point you're going to look at Geno Stone. You're going to say, it's your time, guy. Let's go. Let's go. Let's make a big play. And he did.
Well, we saw it last night. Ronnie Bell, 7th-round pick out of Michigan, made the touchdown catch, then was right place at the right time on a deflected pass, made a catch, made his presence felt, filling in for Brandon Ayuk. That's the thing. What depth do you have? And it gets tested. We find out. Everybody finds out. The Cowboys will find out what depth they have behind Trevon Diggs now that he's out for the year. And the injury happened in a one-on-one drill at practice. And I saw that there was some former Cowboy player that raised the question of why the Cowboys do one-on-one drills in the regular season. And I don't know what the frequency of that is league-wide. We don't pay nearly as much attention to practice once the season starts. During training camp, we pay a lot of attention to practice because that's all we got. Once the games come, practice is like, well, whatever they do, it's practice. But there is a level of intensity where you put your guys at a degree of risk that can get them injured. They got enough risk during the games, and that's the balance, especially as we've seen restrictions on practice come into play, reduced padded practices, coaches very cognizant of keeping their guys healthy, the player health and safety issues. You have to have guys ready to go, but does the process of getting them ready to go jeopardize them excessively? And yesterday, hey, it didn't work out the right way for the Cowboys and for Trevon Diggs. And, you still have to, Peter, come up with that balance of what it takes to have your guys ready to go on Sunday while also not exposing them to excessive risk.
Yeah, I don't know. It's talking about should you put your players in bubble wrap during the season. And I'm sure this will be debated in the wake of this injury, but I always come back to the fact that do you want to, and maybe some teams do want to do this, maybe some teams coach like this. Do you want to, during the course of the season, never have a full speed practice? Never really threaten the health and safety of any player on the team? Should you only in those 17 appearances during the course of the year, is that the only time you should go full speed at practice? I just think it's dangerous to say, and it's easy right now to say, well, they got Diggs hurt, so it's a dumb decision. You shouldn't have been practicing full speed. I don't know. I can't kill teams or kill coaches for basically saying, okay, we're going to practice now because we got a big game on Sunday and we need to make sure that we are ready and we have had some attempt during the course of that time to practice the way the game is. So it's hard for me to come up and say that's a huge mistake, even though this guy got hurt.
Here's the other factor as well. And I believe this happened with Deshaun Watson's torn ACL that he suffered non-contact in November of 2017. I think it happened with Teddy Bridgewater's non-contact ACL tear from late August of 2016. I think the injury possibly happened in the game that they just played. We don't know and never will know, but I know Watson said he believed it when we interviewed him at a Super Bowl at some point after that injury, that you can injure it and not realize it's injured. They say all the time, there's a lot of guys walking around with partially torn ACLs. Nobody knows it. They don't even know it because they felt a little tweak, but hey, they keep going and they just keep going. But it can be that you've done the injury and impaired the ligament and maybe partially torn it, and then something that otherwise wouldn't have torn your ACL causes it to go the rest of the way. That's possible too. So we don't know that it was the intensity of the practice drill. It just could be it was the leftover final piece of something that may have happened to him during a recent game, whether week 1 or week 2, or maybe something happened in the preseason. We just don't know because a lot of times that thing is already ready to go, and then it just finally does go. Also for the Cowboys on Thursday, center Tyler Biadasz suffered a hamstring injury and needs an MRI, was going to have an MRI. They haven't made an announcement yet about his status. Zach Martin remains out of practice with an ankle injury, so they had a couple of key injuries on Thursday. Not a good day for the Cowboys, who have the 49ers looming. The test is coming for the Dallas Cowboys. Week 5, Sunday Night Football. We'll see who the best team in the NFC is, all due respect to the Eagles. But right now it feels like Cowboys 49ers, and we're going to see them square off. And the Cowboys are going to be down a couple of guys, possibly. We know they're going to be down Diggs. They may be down their starting center as well, Peter.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we talked about when you say, do you have good depth on your roster right now? And those are the things, those are the things that try coaches' souls. honestly. When you look at, you've only played 2 games so far, and 40% of your offensive line is gone, your best corner is gone, and obviously that is really, really hard for a coach and hard for a team to deal with. But again, that is where, the 43rd player on your roster, you better be sure about him. You better be. Because if you're not, it's going to come up and bite you at some point. So the guys on the Cowboys, Will McClay, the personnel staff, those are the guys who basically have to make sure that they put players in front of Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn, and that coaching staff, saying this guy can play. I've got trust in him. I've got faith in him. And now we're going to find out if they're right.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.